I don't know who that is, but hey, how are you? We're here. Welcome. And we're also live Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram. Welcome to the good life. Another Wednesday night. Kabiz's dancing for you. Get it. Get it.
Hey,
Get it.
dollar bills right here.
Too much fun. He's having a good
All
day.
right, guys. Listen, today we got a great episode for you guys, and you might want to pull out your notepads. This episode might be for you if you have been considering going back to school. This might be for you if you are in school and considering what on God's green earth are you going to do after school. This might be for you if you want to make something out of your life. This just might be for you just because you like us. All right, we're here. So that's what we're talking about today is credentials. Credentials. When do you actually need it? When is it kind of like, yeah, right? And what makes sense? We're going to talk about return on investment. We're going to talk about planning, right? We're going to talk about making sure that we're not wasting time and we're actually making the impact that we want to make, but also utilizing all of our resources. So that's what we're talking about today. And shoot, fellas, jump in. Jump in.
Listen, hey, I'm going to switch this up. Before we jump in, for those of you that are watching us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, you see it on the bottom, bit.ly /email the good life, TGL. Email TGL. You see it on there. That is some place that we want you to go sign up, register. That's our email list. We have some exciting stuff coming up for you guys over this next 3 months into 2022. We're planning for you over here on The Good Life. So if you see that, I think we got to drop it into the Instagram as well. Stu,
Gotcha.
bit.ly /email TGL. That is the Good Life email. We want to talk to you. We want to continue to have the conversation. We want you to be up to date on everything that's happening. So that's why we want you to subscribe, and we'll talk to you then. But on to today's topic, right? That was like that little commercial, that little advertisement that comes up, right? That's what that is. But we're here. Credentials. What's funny is when we were talking in the pregame, and again, if you haven't joined us, join us an hour before we go live just on Instagram for the pregame, where we discuss some of this stuff also and just get prepped. But I was talking about it a little bit when we were having the conversation about could be you being in school currently, right? Being in school currently to continue to get these credentials or continue to advance your knowledge base, advance your value in your industry. And I kind of countered that a bit with what I see a lot in society, what I see a lot of times with clients or people that we deal with, is that sometimes going through this education, the institutional schooling process sometimes can blind us a bit from what the actual outcome is, right? If we want to make something happen, we want to be valuable to the world, we want to impact a lot more people, sometimes that gets clouded a bit by the information that we're taking in through some of these institutions. And so that led me to kind of ask the question to Kobi specifically, like, how long do you see yourself continuing to go down that path to get the credentials or to get right to be in the schooling side? And do you see yourself learning outside of there? And it came to this conversation of us saying, well, what credentials do you actually need, right? Like, how do we actually do it? Like, how does this actually work? Do you need to go to school for this? Do you not need to? Do you need to network? Like, what needs to happen? And so that's, I know, the conversation that we want to break down a bit more is kind of like, what is needed in this process of getting to the good life and having life where you want it in health, wealth, love, happiness, mindset, the whole nine. Do you need credentials? Do you need something that validates you in order to get it across, or are there other things? I come from this on a entrepreneur mindset, I guess you could say, where I think, if we just wanted to talk about the kind of the schooling part of it right up front, and I know we'll dive into more parts of this conversation, we just talked about the education part. I'm a big believer in you can go do, you can taste and learn and go before you feel like you needed the credential, right? You got to pick your craft. You got to figure out what you're good at. You got to taste some things. And then you can worry about getting the credentials if needed for your specific industry. But I kind of like to do the work up front. And then if needed, get the credentials, get the education, get the specialized knowledge on the back end as I feel like I need it. When a lot of times in society, I think people might think of it the other way. And so that's kind of where my mind was. Stu, jump in, man. Like, what are your thoughts on the topic, I guess?
Yeah, so I think the first thing I want to point out to everybody watching right now is the three of us have very different educational backgrounds. Like, I think Kobi and I probably have the most similarity as we went to the same high school. But aside from that, like different majors in college, different directions that we wanted to take that in. And really, what I like to focus on is for y'all that don't know me, I have an engineering background. And in order to be an engineer, it is required that you go to college to become an engineer. So there are certain things out there that have requirements that you just cannot get around. But the other items out there, are you sure you have to be getting that type of education? Is there a more efficient way? Could you get it through a shorter degree? Are there certifications that will allow you that? Because college is extremely expensive. I know way too many people just burdened by debt. So this always has a lot of power for me, especially because now where I'm at, I really don't use my degree that much. Did I have to go? Who knows?
And that's it. I think it really comes down to vision. What is your vision? Because none of what we're saying applies across the board, right? It just doesn't apply across the board. Like Stu just said, and I appreciate our diversity in backgrounds and experiences so we can speak to this. If you at some point decide you want to be an engineer, but you've spent your entire life avoiding formal education, where at that point, guess what? You shit out of luck. Like, good luck going through all of those hoops now at this point, right? So it's a question of, and Stu, I kind of, I think I've definitely shifted on this a bit for sure. I probably had I was leaning further in a particular direction than I am now. And I think I appreciate what you said earlier in that, like to have the option, right? I'm going to continue to go. But I think it's more of a question at what point do you deviate from the path? At what point do you deviate from the path that's set? Is it in high school? Is it in college? Is it after college, right? Because I totally agree on the surface. I think, up until a certain point, whether you need it or not is irrelevant because the world demands that for you to operate in it, you have to have it, okay? So, and a lot of people, that education really has become their way of testing, if you will, not through the workforce. There used to be, I obviously wasn't around like this, but I coming from Ghana is like a couple years behind in a lot of ways. So things that used to occur in the U.S. Still occurs in Ghana. Like apprenticeships were still a big thing when I was young in Ghana. Like becoming a carpenter, becoming a carpenter apprentice or becoming an apprentice of a shoemaker or whatever was a very common thing that people did instead of going to a 4-year college. But this is where we have to pull in a little bit of history as to how this has happened, right? As a lot of things that happen now, maybe it's not the episode to dive into this, that has directed us down the path of, everybody needs a 4-year degree, right? How are you going to operate in the world without a 4-year degree too? But that's not necessarily true, right? So I think that's where we're going to kind of break down as we move along this episode. And my contribution here, at least in this go round, is it's having a very clear vision. And it doesn't mean that you know exactly what you're going to do, when you're going to do it, and you can pinpoint it all. But it's in having a general idea, exploring it, getting some feedback, and then making new decisions, and then repeating the process over and over again, right? So if by 8th grade you realize, gosh golly, I'm 7 foot tall, I'm going to the NBA, okay? If that's my son, come on, son, we out of here. or my daughter, we out of here. Okay, right? What are we doing? What are we going to school for?
That's right.
Right? What are we doing this for? You going to the league? Like, we need to maximize the effort there, right? Or maybe my child or somebody I know or you are a virtuoso on the piano, right? What's stopping that? No, we skip all that. We're going to the music school out in Boston, whatever that is, right? We're gonna get that. We're gonna sharpen those skills up. So I think that's, you know, the first point of how I see the conversation going is like figuring out, what do you have to work with? What are your resources? What do you have access to, right? Because for some people, you know what, you do need to go to school because you need access to different people. Like, you need to get out of your neighborhood.
That's huge.
Okay. And go to hang out with different people to expand your brain as to what is even possible, right? Mm-hmm. I think that serves a purpose as well. To others, that's a waste of total time. Like, y'all are dolling me up instead of sharpening me up. Go ahead, bro.
No, I love that, man. You're hitting some major things, dude. Like, first off, on the analogy of the 7 foot, what's funny is a lot of those people, because I know one or two of them that like shot up, right? Like when they were like 12, you know, they're 6'6" at 12 years old. It's actually not them thinking they want to play basketball. It's everyone around them saying, "Damn, you're tall. You play basketball? Oh, you're tall. You should play basketball. Oh, you're tall. You should play ball." Like, that's what happens, is literally everybody. That's why, you know, there's some people in the league that are like really like big people. And then they're like, "Oh, he's been playing Giannis, right? He started playing basketball. He's like 16 or something. Right? He's like way far into his career, like way far into his life. But then all of a sudden he's like, "Oh, I think I should play basketball." Right? Probably because those influence. But either way, that on the basketball side, damn, that took my thought.
Basketball gets you hyped, dude.
Basketball gets you fired up, man. It's my life. What was the last thing you said, Kobi? I don't know. Stu, if you got something, man, jump in. It'll come back to me. I'll figure it out.
I think, honestly, the fact that apprenticeships don't exist anymore, in my opinion, is absolutely criminal. Like, it's ridiculous. I mean, I'm literally in an apprenticeship technically right now because I have a coach that's farther along in the process. He literally helps me grow my business, helps me grow my personal life, and provides me with more tools to operate in life and my business. The fact that you can't, like you said earlier, go off in all these different directions. Like, I think it would be amazing if we brought that back, because it would bring back such a lack of dependency on college. Like, give me options. Stop taking my options away. Like, we're supposed to be moving forward as a society. So why are we going away from like the most ancient one-on-one, extremely intensive practice of a master and apprentice? I mean, everything that we know was started with that. Like blacksmithing, cobbler, carpenter, like all of this stuff starts that way. So how can we do that in other ways? I think small business owners really see this. They see potential in young people, and they're like, you know what? I want to take this guy under my wing because I see hunger, I see professionalism, I see a vision with this guy. And whether he stays with me or not, I want him to share this part of my journey with me and help the company grow and help develop an atmosphere. Like, small businesses, I think, get it. It's the big corporations that are like, for liability reasons and for me not getting fired reasons, if you don't work out, I want to see a degree. It really is a total CYA maneuver. Cover your ass, for those not familiar.
No,
so not just that, it's also a money thing as well, right? There's a huge money component. So, Chris, I'm gonna leave that on the table if you want to go ahead and take that.
I mean, I can touch on it because, again, the money component when it comes to colleges, right? Like that being a business, if that's what you're saying. But you expand on what you were wanting to talk about.
Yeah, just in the sense of, if I wanted to at 17, 18, 19 take out a small loan to start a business, it's much more difficult for me to do that than to take out student loans for me to go to get an education. So a lot of things are kind of the arrows, the signpost on the journey on the conveyor belt of life is telling us this is the way to go. So, you know, even if you get a young person or a person, like I said, even myself at like 16, you get me down and you explain this to me, I might get it in the back of my head, but all forces around me, unless my vision is crystal clear, which is the first thing I mentioned about having a clear vision. Unless my vision is crystal clear, which at 16, most of our visions isn't that clear, unless you are 7'2", and it's like, listen, dog, I get it. You like mathematics, but let's give this basketball thing a shot. Just let's just try 1 year. Just 1 year. And we can see if we can sneak you in the back door some mathematics program at Columbia or something like that. But
but again, I want to stick on this one point of the conveyor belt of life. Right? I think that's a great just analogy. There's actually a meme I have of like that happening, right? Like the conveyor belt, and you go through school, and then you work, and then you come out the other side, and then you like fall into a grave, right? Like that's just life. It's just you wake up, you die, you work, you pay bills, and you die, type of thing. But anyway, damn, I keep doing this. Like I go off on tangents. Like, I don't know if it's the day. Like I don't know if it's today or just the way my brain is working. But I have all these tangents in my mind. Anyway, conveyor belt of life, right? Conveyor belt of life, very interesting because it's hard to get off of it. And you pose the question, like, when do we branch off? Like, when do we go? When do we say this path isn't for me? And are we setting up our children, setting up ourselves, setting up the next generation to be able to, for, keeping with the analogy, for looking at the signs, the exit signs of how to get off, right? How to get off the conveyor. If you realize that this isn't taking me to where I want to be, when do you jump off, and who gives you that leeway?
Yeah,
right? That's a big thing, because we talked about it in the pregame of like how much parents, right? Like you said, could be at 17 for all of us on it. We wouldn't know another way. With the information we have right now, we only got that because we went through the process, and right, we experienced some things, and then we learned some new information, and now we're putting together kind of our theses about certain stuff. But at 16, 17, 18, we don't have that same base of knowledge for us, right? But the reason why it's reinforced by the parents that believe that this is right, that, there's a lot of mindset things that have to, let's say there's a lot of things that have to be unlearned in this process if we're going to get to some form of change. And a lot of it's going to come down to the adults, even though I believe that it's in your child adolescent stage that like you start becoming aware of some of this stuff. I think it's your parents and the people around you that give you the green light to say it's okay to go that way, right? Most times you might be aware of something at 14, 15, but parents and teachers and people around are telling you, no, this way. So you see the sign, but you don't have permission yet to go off of this conveyor belt. And then that becomes its own struggle, because then when do you get off? Is it, if you go to college, is it you get off after college? If you're doing that for them, right? Like there's always going to be that struggle, but I really think that this is a conversation for the parents to say, what are we programming them to do? What options are we giving them? What options are we giving our children? Or just in general, if anyone's listening to us right now and you don't feel like you have options, a lot of times, and depending on what age you are, right? A lot of times this came from something that started in your childhood, or the way your parents raised you, or the information you got. So like now you should know we all have options. You all have options. So what is it that you want to do? Like could be said, have a vision, start to think about it. And then I would say start to test, start to go work at that job, start that little business, volunteer at that place, travel abroad, do something that allows you to do. School oftentimes, the education system oftentimes just allows you to kind of keep passing time and thinking about things. But when you get into life and you want to get to the good life, specifically in all these areas, you have to do. And that's what we want to make sure, or I want to make sure that people are doing, right? Actually doing something.
Ooh, you brought up a bunch of good points in there, man. I think first I'd like to take a stab at answering your question of when do you hop off the conveyor belt? I think to tie this back to what could be, and I were getting at earlier, I loved your wording of it. Could be, what's your vision? Where do you want to go? You can't, in my opinion, stepping off the conveyor belt before having any idea which way you want to go, fast way to lose a lot of money, fast way to just get overwhelmed. Having a general vision, like as you're going through school, like having those conversations with your kid, having those conversations with your friends, like what do I actually want to do with my life? And once you figure out the vision, you begin to look at what are the milestones in order for me to get there? Break it down into steps. And if some of those steps involve certain pieces of education, cool. Are you okay with that? Are you aware of the consequences? Is it going to get you the results and the outcome that they say it's going to get you? How can you vet that? Who can you talk to that's been there before? So I think that to answer that question at a high level, it depends, because we all love that answer. But it really does depend on what your vision is and what are the required milestones to get there. What do you think is the best path to get there? Not just because of what mainstream is telling you, but when you sit down and you do some research and you kind of, I'm a spreadsheet guy. You put a couple of different things into a spreadsheet, you look at the costs, you look at the results, you just basically look at all the information in front of you and you make an informed decision of what your educational path wants to be.
Let me jump in real quick just about the word vision, because I have the conversation with a lot of people about vision, and a lot of times people don't, or they struggle to make their vision clear enough to speak, clear enough to see, right? Like it just, and one of the downsides of people when I ask the question to younger people, under 25, typically under 23, when I ask that question of what's your vision, and this goes back to it'll all tie in. Most people at that age will say, "This is what I want to do for work." Mm. It's the first thing when you ask someone that's relatively young. You ask people that are older too. I do this the same way, and I'll tell you, it doesn't change that much. It's just they add on, "I want to have a house and I want a vacation," right? But really, it's all the same stuff, right? But for that kid, all they think about is, "This is what I'll do for work." Hey, what's your vision for life? I ask people this all the time. 10 years out, fast forward out, perfect ideal life. I say it just like that. Perfect ideal life. The naysayers start to say, "Well, Chris, there's no perfect life." Got it. But if I said you could dream up your perfect ideal life 10 years from now, what would it be? Like, just dream about it. What would it be? And the first thing out of people's mouths is, "This is what I would do for work. This is where I would be." Like, and it's like, got it. That's a part of your life. But let's talk about life. How do you spend your time? Where are you? What are you consuming? Right? Do you have a family? Are you by yourself? Are you near water? Are you in a mountain? Do you have more time for yourself? Do you work more hours? Do you make $300,000 a year? Do you need $50,000 a year? Do you want to be able to travel? Do you want to stay in a city? Like, think about life. Think about life. We don't equip our kids with that information. School, the education system, and parents make it about what do you want to do for work? Because that's going to dictate then all the other stuff, right? It's going to dictate, well, if you want to do this for work, well, then you got to get good grades, and then you got to do this for school, and but we don't ask them, what kind of lifestyle do you want to live? We don't ask them that, because then that would create their thought process when they're 12, 13, 14 to be like, "I'm really good at this. I'm really good at this thing, whatever that thing is. Man, I could see myself doing this for my life. Man, what if I could be by the beach?" They start creating the lifestyle they want around their skill set that they're learning to develop. That's the vision they need. Parents, society, right? We give them the vision of work. We give them the vision of making money. That's what we give our children. And we say, the reason you have to go to college is because it's a plan B so you can make money, right? That's the only reason we're doing it. So we have to change the complete narrative, especially parents. I'm talking to parents out there. You don't want, like, if you think that your kid has more options, you got to start showing them and instilling in them some of these mindsets of how to get to the life they want, the lifestyle they want. And it's not going to come around a job. It's going to come around a skill set, the thing that they're good at, the thing that they will find as a passion or that they can apply themselves to more. I don't think we do a good job of relaying that message.
Mm. I think that's a really good point, and I'm probably a little biased here, but I think really figuring out what is that central thing that you build your life around, right? Kind of like a football team. How do you construct your team? You can win a lot of different ways, but how do you construct your team? What is that central figure? Do you find a really good quarterback and then build everything else around that, or do you build a really strong O line and you have great skill positions, so you don't need a quarterback, right? Um, the way I look at this is I believe that it should be built around health. That's what I personally believe. I believe that we should teach our children, we should learn ourselves how to build our life around our health, because that's ultimately what, when people, Chris, when you ask, what do you want to do, and they answer with a job, it's because we during the indoctrination process have been trained to be really good regurgitators, right? And so we regurgitate, right? I see this so clearly. What I used to do, what my siblings are doing, what students that I talk to, they just regurgitate, right? And it's not their fault. Even the sharpest ones, they regurgitate. That's how you get an A. You regurgitate, right? But what is a brand new idea of kind of like what you want to do, so I totally lost my point there for a quick second.
Hey,
For a
it's
quick
my turn
second,
next.
the bug is getting me. All right.
It's the energy. It's the energy.
Shoot, what was the last thing I said? Remind me real quick.
Prioritizing lifestyle over work.
Health. Central around health. Yes, that's the whole point. Why do I say that? Because that is the biggest non-negotiable, right? Like, there's so many ways to make money. Okay. But if your job demands that you live a certain way, you can't like reverse engineer that health-wise, right? Or maybe you can, but it's a lot harder to do it that way, right? Whereas you pick and we teach our children how to like construct, like rise up with the sun, go to, okay, then I'm probably not going to work nights, or like, you know what I mean? It kind of dictates what you do after that a little bit. Or listen, I'm not going to be in a career that requires me to be, on call 18 hours a day, because that's just, you know what? It's not really good for my health. I can impact the world other ways besides being in this particular career that requires me to live life in a way that's detrimental even to my mental health, to my sense of happiness, to my sense of well-being. I include all of that stuff. I don't separate physical, mental, and spiritual. I don't. I think it's a mistake to do it, to be very honest. I will never Yeah, I think it's a mistake. Let me stop there. I think it's a huge mistake that we do.
Bro, I could not agree with you more on this topic. Like they are one and the same. And I really didn't buy into that until here in the last year or so, when I really, really cleaned up my diet. Like, and I started to be able to listen, and I started to be able to notice a difference in like the clarity of my thoughts depending on the food that I ate. That one's huge. Not to mention like the amount of alcohol you consume. That's to everybody out there. Like, check that, please, because you walk, like when you take a break from that, you're able to see what life is like when you're clear, and you begin to have a more evaluated decision of what are the foods I'm eating, what am I consuming as far as beverages as well. I think I further agree with your sentiment of health being like the fundamental, because as you're saying, if you're working, I know people that do this, man. They work like 60 plus hours a week. They may be working night shifts. They hate their fucking job. They're being completely abused as far as where their time and energy is going. And they can't take care of their health, which means they can't think straight, which means by the time they get done working, or they finally get to a Saturday afternoon or a Sunday off, they're exhausted. What kind of planning for your future or creating a vision or an exit strategy can happen when you have allowed yourself to get worked to the bone? And I think for me,
what's the solution? What's the solution for that person, Stu? That's a real thing. There's a lot of people dealing with that. They hate what they're doing, and it's causing a detriment to their mind and body and spirit, right? Like all of it, like they hate it.
I would say first step would be, what can you control about your current situation? Maybe at the moment you can't control how you make your money. You know, at the very moment you're in a job that you don't like, what can you do with your free time? I think Kobi and I may be on the same page with this. What are you eating? Like, for the love of God. Like, what are you putting into yourself? How much are you going out on the weekends? Are you going out to escape, or are you going out with some type of intent? Are you looking for a partner? Are you looking for a tribe? Are you looking to have some level of derangement of your mind, which is actually a part of a grief process, which is why I think going out and partying and getting fucked up is so popular in society. But are you going out there with the intention of actually loosening up a bit and maybe having different types of conversation or stretching your comfort zone socially? Like, what is your intent with your free time? I think that's step one. What do you do with your free time? Step two is to begin, like, when you start to use your free time and you get some clarity and you start to think, you know, I could maybe do this instead. 1-page business plan. Anybody listen to this, you hit me up, I'll send you a link to it. Just a simple list of questions to take whatever idea you have and see how you could actually make that work. I'm actually putting together a 3-month program on this, on how to get out of your job. Finally, once you begin to have that vision, what commitment are you going to make to just chip away at getting whatever credential or whatever repetition or experience can help you get comfortable being like, you know what? This is going to allow me to get to a point where I could feel like peeling back from work. Because I think what a lot of people forget is part-time jobs and contract employment are out there for so many industries. You actually don't have to work full-time. And if you're beginning to realize that you're not happy in your situation, come up with an exit strategy. Figure out your short-term finances. How long could you go without making the same level of income? Can you taper down to a part-time job and still cover your expenses while you use that extra time responsibly to take care of yourself and to begin to build momentum in this new business opportunity? But I got to agree with Kobi on this one, man. It comes down to health. I think for Kobi, he brings it all together. I think my favorite one is mental health. And when it comes to mental health, are you getting enough rest? Are you consuming the right food? Are you exercising? Who are you associating with? I think number 4, who you're associating with, is incredible in this one. If you're going to happy hours after work with a bunch of people that you don't really like to be around because you don't really like to work there, what conversation are you going to have about getting out of that job? None. So, yeah, that's all I got.
That's good, man.
Yeah.
That's good. Like, that's better than my answer, because I just told him to quit.
Just quit.
No, I'm joking.
Hey,
But
I'm not going to lie. To some degree, I kind of just quit, and it does cause a level of necessity. But you got to have some type of short-term expenses covered.
yeah,
So-
you got to be able to look, because the essence of that person, right, that is miserable, but they're just neglecting their health and neglecting some of these other things. Really, normally that comes down to a money issue, right? Like, it's a scarcity. Will I have enough? I don't really know how to step out into this next phase because I'm not comfortable financially on the side. But but you know, that's why sometimes actually, I'm not joking, I do tell people, like, just quit. If I know that they're smart enough and intelligent enough, and I know a little bit about their financial life, I will tell them, like, just quit. Because what's the worst? Like, you flounder for 2 weeks, just go back and get a job, right? Like, it doesn't, like, just go pick up something, right? Like, it doesn't mean just because you quit that all of a sudden, like, you have to go find like a way better position. But if that thing is hurting your mental, spiritual, physical, emotional health, right? It's hurting, right? It's depressing you. It's giving you, right, all types of things that aren't good for you. Leave. There's actually plenty of places that even if you just need to get a job, you could.
Yeah.
So is it worth that? You know what I mean? Like, is it worth the health, sacrificing your health? And I'm in agreement with you guys as well. I think my next question on top of that would be like, well, how do you kind of construct your life around your health, your mental health, your physical health? Like, what would be your thoughts? Like, if someone's like, I agree, gentlemen, I hate my job, net, like, I don't want to, like, I want to now construct my life so that health is my top priority, and anything else, well, I deal with, I move around or whatever the case. Like, how does one start that process?
You got to take inventory of your life. What are you consuming and what are you doing with your time? It's that simple.
There we go.
That's it. Ain't nothing else. We can go home.
Yeah,
We're done. We're finished.
Oh, that's it.
Later, fellas.
That's it.
See y'all 2022.
But seriously, that's really it. Because what are you consuming and what are you doing with your time, right? You may think your situation comes down to your financial numbers, but let's double check. Where are you spending your money?
Huge.
Maybe it doesn't actually come down to financial numbers, but it comes down to you consuming the wrong things. So you're not utilizing what you have to the best of its ability, right? So that keeps you in that job. I've been in that position where I'm looking at like, man, I can't leave this position because of the money that's coming in. But then I look at my budget and I'm like, I don't need to live up to this salary. I can tighten up and go ahead and get my situation right. And as my means expand, then as additional funds come in, I can adjust accordingly. But I like take a look at what are you consuming, right? What are you consuming information wise? What do you consume? What do you see on a regular basis? What are you watching on a regular basis? What are you hearing on a regular basis? What are you speaking on a regular basis and tasting, eating on a regular basis? A lot of folks talk about money all the time, but then they eating out every day. Right. What are you consuming? Literally, figuratively, however you want to think about it. What are the things that you are taking in from everywhere? Right. You going to clubs and parties trying to get laid because you're lonely. Like, what are you consuming? Like, what are you spending all of this effort and time doing? Right. Put down a calendar on the 20. You work 16 hours a day. Are you actually working 16 hours a day, or are you working 10 and messing around for 6? Right? What are you doing? What are you consuming? So I think an analysis there very clearly takes you to what we've mentioned before. Step 1, awareness of what's happening. What's happening? What's actually happening? And then we can go ahead and make decisions accordingly. Do you need some help? Do you need somebody else to step in, somebody else to talk to? Do you need professional help? Do you need professional coaching to figure this out, this transition out, right? There's been times where I've lessened my lifestyle so that I could afford a particular coach at a particular time because I really needed it. I've had so many coaches, I can't even, and it's because of this, man, I'm smoking too much. I'm eating too much. I'm spending too much time at work. Honestly, I'm just spending too much time at work. Yeah, it's great. It's supposed to support my family, but I'm just there too long. It's too much. All right. I'm spending too much energy with these particular people. Right. I'm watching too much TV. Right. Like, all of this stuff is not just like things you tell to your kids. Just because we become adults and we pay our own bills and whatever, now the responsibility is on you. The only difference is that now you have to go ahead and analyze your life. Not your parents, not your caregiver, not whatever. You analyze your life. I analyze my life and say, listen, this is the way things are going. This is what I'm consuming. This is what I'm doing. These are the results. Don't like the results. I want different results. Let me tweak these 2 things, because that's usually what it comes down to. Those 2 things. What are you consuming and what are you doing with your time? If we take a log of my time, what am I doing? We take a log of all the things I'm consuming, not just eating. That's just one thing. It's a pretty big thing, but it's not just eating. But also, what are you hearing all the time? What are you seeing all the time? What are you thinking all the time? What are you talking about all the time? Right? What does your mind automatically focus on? That voice in your head, what is it doing? That's why I say it's health, man. That's the core. All this stuff is health to me. That's what health is.
Gotcha.
How you live.
I follow, and I agree 1,000%. And that's why honestly, it's why we created the show, to be honest, is because all these areas naturally, by living in our society, you are distracted from actually doing this work. The work, we can break this down because all of us are basically saying kind of the same thing, right? What are you consuming? How are you spending your time? I love how you just broke it down, Khabib. But as you're saying that, these are the same conversations I have with people financially. It's the exact same conversation. Oh, okay, you don't know where your money's going? Great. What are you consuming? Right? Well, what are you doing with your time? Like, where are you making money somewhere else? Are you doing something else with it? Right? Like, this is it. So how we get to that good life is being able to be present enough to be aware and take inventory of where we sit. The world around us does everything to not allow us to do that, to not allow us to really take inventory of where we are, to spend time with ourselves. I was just talking this morning to some of my team about distractions and our habits and how, right, just how our habits really will lead to the trajectory of the life that you want to live. So if the secret to your success is found in your daily habits and your daily routine, right? What is it that you're doing on a daily basis? Because that's going to tell you where you're going. And a lot of times we don't pay attention to the habits because we numb ourselves with the distractions and the escapism. And then all of a sudden we can't get back to the spot we want to get to, right? And now we have needs. Now we really are miserable. Now we're a little unhealthy and sick. Or now we have to change all these habits and start thinking differently to now start taking inventory, figuring out what we're consuming and right where we're spending our time, and then going to work, actually changing those things. Not saying, man, I do spend a bunch of time at work. I don't really like it. But it pays the bills. So does everybody else. It's just one of those things. That's what most people do. They just justify they're like, I hate this. But this is why. I guess there's nowhere I can go. I guess I'm just stuck doing this and living this life. And that is something we have, right? People have to work on. You have to do this work to not just be like, I'm okay with the way it is because everyone else is dealing with this too. You have to have vision for your own life, right? And being able to then say, now I'm willing to make these necessary changes to get there.
This type of people crush me, bro. But it crushes my soul every time I have conversations like that. I'm just like, that's it? You just gonna throw up your hands? It's just kind of how life works. Just kind of how it is. Oh yeah, well, would you rather be alone or with the masses? I've actually heard that. Like, would you rather be alone or with well, shoot, if this is the direction we're moving in, I'd rather be with the zombies.
I'll drink the Kool-Aid, sir. I want to be with everyone.
Red pill, blue pill, baby. That's what we're getting at here.
Craziness to me. So, because a lot of what you're saying, or what we're saying on this episode, I think we have to acknowledge is not easy, right? It's not easy. So, when you're asking people to take a harder path, regardless of how good it is for them, I have found in my experience that this may be the cure for everything that I'm literally giving you in 10 days. This could be it. But people still got questions. I don't know. Is green juice good for me?
Am I going to get my protein?
Right? So I get it. And part of it is getting education. Part of it is being around new people. Part of it is whatever. Part of it is this. Part of it is that. Part of it is blah, 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 blah. Part of it is also that's the journey. Some people are just going to have to go and fall on their face. Some people are going to have to go and have issues. Some people are going to have to go and get near to broke, get near to cancer, get near to X, Y, and Z. I've had clients who the only reason they were working with me is because they had a cancer scare, literally a cancer scare, right? And as soon as that was cleared up, no, we're fine, we're good, all is well. Pour the wine. Eat the food. Life is short. I almost died. Guys, I don't think you understand the pure buffoonery I deal with around this stuff. I'm just like, you weren't just balling 2 days ago? No. Oh, okay, cool. We're good. I literally didn't have to just console you about, no, we're just going to go back to all that food, all the bacon. Just no. Oh, Lord. Why did we do all that?
This is the life of a coach in general. You get it probably the hardest because maybe not the hardest, but probably one of the harder coaches at the end of the day because
objection.
We've been misinformed about our health so much. Like we've been misinformed. And it's something like, right? People it's hard for a lot of people. It's a real challenge. And so I know you get all of these types of excuses, right? Like I'm kind of numb to the money excuses after doing it for a long time because everybody has them, right? Like everybody's really got a money excuse somewhere in their bag. Like they got some reason why they're not investing, not doing this, not doing that, and they justify it. So I've learned to just be like, all right, cool, whatever your thing is your thing. These are just some principles that we just now got to start to get over. But I think we get all these types of pushbacks. We get all the people that change their mind or start to go down this path and say, it's not that bad. What happens is they forget about the pain. Mm-hmm. They forget about the pain. That's what happens. It's what happens in the financial world, right?
That's so damn true.
Yeah, when people lose 50% of their retirement in 2008, it's the numbers. Stock market went down 63%, right? Like people lost 50% of their retirement. They kept using the same vehicles 3 years later as if that just didn't happen, right? Like it just happened, guys. Like, but they forget the fear. They forget the pain. They forget what that meant. Like they forget that emotion. They just go back to whatever was more convenient. I see it.
And companies know this. Companies know this. Companies know this. Companies know this, right? Wells Fargo, right?
You're out in California, Jack in the Box. You know, Jack in the Box killed a kid like 15 years ago from like a burger. Like they had a huge outbreak. They killed a child. Like it was a bad thing. Jack in the Box just came right back out, like gave it a little facelift. People forget. They forget very quickly. There's no more pain to eating that food. There's no more. I'm just going to keep showing up.
Doing just fine. Businesses know this, man.
Talking about. They really do. They really do. Like when you offer a product and you start to see results that are not favorable, and you still offer that product, it's like, come on, man. Like where are the ethics? We've actually gone into that topic before when it comes to what would we do in their shoes. And who knows? But one thing I want to drill into real quick is we've been talking about breaking away from the norm, and some of that comes with the education and certifications to kind of tie us in here. Others is with your food, or I just had a call with a first-time client today, and her social group has this habit of just partying every single weekend, and they go so hard and they stay up so late that it makes it almost impossible for her to come up with an exit strategy from where she's at, because she's so drained and so beat up. And we came up with a couple different ideas on how she could begin to be a leader by just being one of the first people to have a limit, to say no, to schedule an activity that's different for the weekend that could provide her with less lack of clarity and low energy from what alcohol and going to bed at 5 a.m. will do to you. And I think that for everybody out there, like, yes, we all have frustrations with our clients, but it's up to us to have like that right balance of like challenge and support. Like we're going to push you to the best, but don't get us wrong. We definitely have clients that all of a sudden they have commitments and some don't follow through. I've got clients that they make a commitment, they fucking knock out every single one. Like it is up to you to change your situation, just to tie ownership back into the theme of this and almost every single one of our calls. Like anything that you are struggling with, like take some more ownership. It's going to help you out. And I think, when it comes to whether or not you're worried about being off on your own island or being part of the masses, you can, by your decisions to say no or set boundaries or limit yourself in certain areas, you will be surprised what tribe you actually shift into. You will find other people on the same page, but you won't find them until you start to make a change. And that's going to require you to say no to the people you care about sometimes.
So true.
Look at the man in the mirror. What's changed?
Good old MJ. I'll pull up this. Aaron said on Facebook, "Hey, taking the plunge to drop out of school, and your day job is both the scariest and most rewarding choice he's ever made." He made it happen. Scary. He made it happen. He dropped school and the day job, started freelance, started picking things up. Aaron's making things happen. But again, for everyone that's listening, it's going to be scary. We're not saying this stuff is going to be easy. We're not saying this is going to be easy.
Two things.
Go for it.
Two things real quick. Also not saying that, like, even if you're dropping school and the day job, there's ways. We talk about apprenticeship, right? There's ways to still get the education. Education is not equivalent to school. Okay, there's still ways to set yourself up. Maybe somebody's doing something that you want to do and you don't know how they got there. Go work for them for a little bit, right? If they don't want you, look for others who are doing it and go work for them. Okay, so I think that's really key to keep in mind here. And also, and I want to speak about my journey specifically. I think we should do a separate episode on this so we talk about specifics. But I see a lot of people in real estate who are trying to get in real estate, and real estate has this, like, over the last 40, kind of 50, 60 years or so, built up this, there's this like mystique kind of about it, where it took me years to even understand like what I like. I knew I liked buildings, right? I used to work construction in high school. I like building. I like doing that stuff. I like the labor, and I saw the people I was working with that were definitely financially free and doing very well. So I was like, shit, how do I get in, right? Took me forever to just like, to even just realize the landscape, the full landscape, right? So, you know, something I like to talk about into a little bit more detail, and health as well, right? Maybe you're really interested in helping people heal and feel better, but you don't want to go to medical school, or you can't go to medical school for some reason or another. What is another pathway to go, right? Maybe you don't want to be a trainer in the gym. Maybe you want to take another route, right? Maybe you want to be an acupressurist, you want to be an acupuncturist, you want to be a chiropractor, you want to look at other forms of education and other ways of practicing and giving to I think those two conversations, you know, we should definitely create some space for that. And I'm sure that's true for both of your industries as well. You know, I got quite a bit to say about that as it pertains to real estate, as it pertains to health, and as it pertains to building a career as an entrepreneur, or in normal mainstream, or maybe somewhere in between.
Yeah, Stu, I'm gonna toss it to you, but I think that's a great idea, Kobi, to be honest, man. I think maybe even next week, we just do kind of like a part 2 and go down the practical steps, like you said. What does it mean to get into real estate? Like how does that work? What does it mean to break into the financial industry? What does it mean to be a life coach, to actually help people down the path? Like, are there practical things that we can do, or that you can do, someone that's listening to us, that can help you along that process? And so I think we should have a second conversation about it for sure. Go ahead, Stu.
I mean, honestly, I'm looking here. We have the last 4 minutes. I'm wondering, how do we want to button this up here?
I'll tell you for sure, we didn't. I mean, I was gonna say we didn't talk about credentials that much, but either way,
I think we do this. I think we've given quite a bit of kind of like a lead up, you know, a warm up. You know, I will use other terms, but it might be flagged. You know what I mean? No, I'm just done. I was gonna say foreplay, but you know, this one is.
I can dig it.
But I think we set up for next week where we talk about credentials, right? If you want to get into real estate, what does that look like? What does that even mean? I think a lot of people don't know what that is. If you want to be in the health industry, right? What does it mean? Like, do you have to be a doctor, traditional route? Can you look at alternative medicine and other ways of doing that stuff? And then, as you know, if you want to be an entrepreneur and just make money, but you don't really have a tie to anything, you just want to do business, what does that look like, right? So I think it'll be cool to lead up to that for our next episode and end it right here.
I love it. I love it.
Fair enough.
I think that that's a great call. So everybody that is listening and watching, make sure you join us next week. Remember, we're here every single Wednesday, 5 o'clock Pacific, right? 8 o'clock Eastern. That is when the show starts. But we go an hour before on Instagram Live just to give some of the pregame. You get a chance to hear our thoughts a little bit more before we dive into the show. So every Wednesday night, let's say from 4 to 6 Pacific time, or what's that? 4 to 6, yeah, 7 to 9 Eastern time. I almost forgot what time zone I'm in. 7 to 9 Eastern time. Join us Wednesday night. We want to be able to share with you guys more of what it takes to get to the good life. GSC Capone, join us next week. I'm glad you stopped in this week. Join us next week, though. We're obviously going to go back on round 2 of this topic, right? We're going to go round 2. We're going to dive deeper and get a little bit more into our personal stories and kind of what you can do out there and give you some real advice. So invite some people on next week, right? Invite some people that are just starting in their journey. They're a little confused, right? They maybe don't know exactly how to break through or how to get to where they want to be. Join us next week, Wednesday. We're going to give them some tips, some tools, some tricks. And for those of you that are watching right now, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, bit.ly/email TGL. That's our email list. Let's make sure that we, or if you guys are getting value from this, add your name to that. We got some great stuff coming up in 2022. We're already planning for you. We just want to make sure we're impacting as many people as possible, getting you the information you need to live that good life. All right?
Amen. I got a final comment on that. So for those of y'all that don't know, we got individuals here that have real estate backgrounds, health coach, mindset coach. I do some career coaching as well. We got finances. We've had
Sales
background in sales, absolutely. Construction management, engineering,
marketing,
restaurant gigs, marketing. Amen. Like we have a lot of different backgrounds. So if you want to learn how to get into any one of those fields or something else, tune in, ask some questions. We got you hooked up.
Awesome, guys. Hey, until next week, we're signing off. Enjoy the good life.
Good life. Take care, y'all.